Dating in your 30s and 40s is different than dating in your 20s. It has a unique set of challenges, but dating at this age can be one of the most gratifying experiences ever. I know I was in the dating game in my 30s, and I'm here to share with you my experiences as well as practical dating tips, how to stay positive throughout the process, self-reflection that you can do for personal growth, as well as how to deal with things like rejection. Hi everyone, my name is Avneet, and if you're new here, I am doing a series called A Millennials Guide to Turning 40, and this is episode 2. I also make videos on my life here in New York City, as well as what I like to call a touch of luxury, because I do love beautiful things. So if this video or any of those topics interest you, be sure to hit the subscribe button. For those of you who already know me, welcome back. I'd say the key difference dating in your 30s and 40s versus dating in your 20s is that you're dating with a lot more clarity, and you should be dating with a lot more confidence. By this age, you know yourself better and you want to use that to your advantage. You also have grown confident in your own skin in ways that you maybe didn't feel in your 20s. In addition to knowing yourself better, we just happen to live in a day and age where dating at this age is normal. So that stigma around still being single in your 30s and 40s is becoming less and less because you're really not the only one in this boat. So letting go of societal timelines, embracing your own self-worth is going to help you exude confidence when you're in the dating game. The key now is to date with intention. When you're looking for prospects or you're asked on a date, you want to become more and more clear on what it is that you're looking for and what you maybe have tried in the past that didn't work, so you can gracefully say no to and not waste any more time there. Where can you meet these dating prospects? Well, a lot of the same places that you could have met them in your 20s. A lot of the ways that 20-year-olds are dating is no different than you would be dating. First is the dating apps. When you are on the dating apps, though, remember, intention is key. You are allowed to, and you should be a lot more selective. So if someone's profile isn't showing you or sharing the things that you're looking for, keep swiping. And of course, when it comes to matching with someone on a dating app, if they're not communicating with you immediately and there isn't consistency in that communication, it's time to find another prospect. Now, even if your social networks have changed since your 20s, it doesn't mean that social networks and social circles don't exist in your 30s and 40s. So use them to your advantage. And it's not just about a friend who's going to set you up with another friend. Think outside the box. Maybe your friend has a significant other who has friends, or a coworker. The key, though, is to share that you are single and you're looking and you are available. That helps people know that first, if they were to consider a good match for you, that you're approachable for that prospect. And they may not have realized that you were single at all. Sharing that up front is a great way for you to open yourself up to all the various avenues of someone coming along and taking you out on a date. To further think outside of the box, there's a lot of great opportunities to meet people in real life when it comes to your interests, as well as stepping outside of your comfort zone. So when it comes to your interests like volunteering or traveling or going to the gym, you want to ensure that you are remaining open to the idea that someone can approach you, or someone that you meet in a more platonic sense is a new opportunity to grow your network and find potential matches through them. And in terms of stepping outside of your comfort zone, maybe there's an activity or hobby that you aren't necessarily putting at the top of your passions list, but you know it's a great way to meet others. I mentioned the gym earlier, but if you are not active, is there a sport or a club that you can join where it's a team effort and it's not just a way to meet, again, a prospect, but meet new friends who can open up your social circles? Remember, the positive of dating at this age versus dating in our 20s is we should be far more pragmatic in the way we look at prospective relationships. See clearly in black and white and think more logically. Does this fit in what I'm looking for? Does this make me feel good? Yes or no? We don't want to look at things from an emotional standpoint until genuine emotions are involved. Otherwise, you want to look at it as pragmatically and as logically as possible, because I'm going to get into it. A lot of these rejections and a lot of these relationships that don't take flight have not much to do with you at all. So protect yourself and look out for yourself by being a bit more realistic in your approach. Because this is the age of dating with clarity, when you are approached by someone or you find yourself in the beginning stages of a relationship, you want to be much more aware of red flags versus green flags. Everyone is going to have their own list of red flags, your own non-negotiables, and stick by them. But there are a few that should be red flags across the board, no matter who you are or who the person is that you're dating. If someone is unclear with their intentions, that's a red flag. It's either a sign that they're emotionally not available, or maybe they're just having a little bit of fun when you're looking for a life partner. If someone has a lot of past relationship baggage or is avoidant of getting into a relationship, that's also a red flag. Now, in terms of past baggage, this might be different for different people, but I personally, when I was dating and single, I started to learn that if I'm getting in a relationship with someone who was in a long-term relationship and it ended within the past year, I'm not sure I want to go there, because exes have a way of rearing their heads. A random trigger can make someone think of their ex, and I just didn't want that energy to get in the way of me dating them or them dating me. Figure out what that timeline is for you, and if there's baggage, you want to make sure that they've worked through all of it so that it is slim to none and it doesn't get in the way of the two of you getting to know each other. When I talk to my single friends and them showing up as a partner, I tell them that they need to be consistent with the prospects that are interested in them. Equally, someone should be consistent with you too. Consistent with their communication, consistent with the actions that they put behind the communication. If someone isn't consistent, meaning one day you'll hear from them in the morning and then it's 3 days later that you hear from them again, or they're flaky when it comes to dates, red flag. You don't need to spend any more time there. Keep it moving. As you share your intentions and your boundaries with others, if someone is stepping over those boundaries or not appreciating and valuing your time, that's also a red flag. Bottom line, if you're ever feeling confused at any stage of your relationship, where is this going? What am I to this person? And they're not clear with their intentions, just as you've been clear with yours, it's time to let it go. Cut your losses and keep it moving. Gone are the days of this idea of sunk cost fallacy, where if you've invested any time at all, then you may as well see it through. No, ma'am. You are older and you are wiser, and you shouldn't allow any of these walking red flags take any more days out of your life or any more wisdom out of your minds and hearts. Here are the green flags that you do want to look out for. Is someone clearly communicating with you? And do their actions match their words? You want to be with someone who is emotionally available and consistent when they're showing up for you. Because we're older and we've established more of our independence as well as a lifestyle that we not just enjoy, but we feel like we thrive in, a green flag is someone who appreciates and respects you, your individuality, and your lifestyle. Ultimately, you want to look for someone who makes you feel at ease, who creates a psychological and emotional safety that allows you to be your most authentic self. So you're feeling good, you're feeling confident, you have your head straight, but you just can't get those pesky pressure points out of your head. Friends or family members who are concerned, oh, you should find someone, oh, time's running out, oh, what was wrong with him? You're never gonna get 100% of what you're looking for. You need to quiet out those voices. Don't let the pressure of others get in the way of your clarity and what you're looking for. At the end of the day, you are looking for a life partner. You're only 30, maybe 40 something years old, and God willing, you have decades to live, and you want a partner who's going to be with you for the rest of the ride. So don't let their pressure put a haze over your judgment when you're looking for the ideal partner. Own your choices and what you're looking for with confidence and without any guilt. Some of you might be sitting there and thinking, but of me, I've been dating for so many years and I'm tired, and I understand that. Dating can feel daunting and it can be deflating. One way to keep that from happening, or to be able to rebound from that discouraging feeling more often, is to just shift your perspective when it comes to dating in your 30s and 40s altogether. your standards shouldn't come down. I highly believe in sticking to your standards when you're looking for the person that you want to include in your life for the rest of your days. But you may need to reset your expectations when it comes to dating as a whole. If you were to take a step back and then take a step forward when it comes to the dating process, approach it as neutrally as possible and be friendlier to dating as a whole and friendlier to yourself while you're dating in an otherwise daunting process. Start viewing dating as an experience and not a means to an end. I remember when I moved to New York City and I wanted to get in a positive mindset before I started dating. The one way I thought of it is, hey, I have nothing to lose but everything to gain. That's actually a quote my sister would say to me often, including before my first date with my now husband. And I approached it as, even if this date doesn't go anywhere, I at least got to check out a new bar or a new restaurant that I can add to my list to come back to with my friends. Every date is not just a chance to meet someone new, it's also a chance to possibly try something new, learn something new about them, about life in general, about yourself. And all of it is essentially research to help you refine what you want. All the dating that you did in your 20s is research. It helped you get clear on what type of partner you're looking for. It helped you get clear on your list of standards for a significant other. So while you're dating in your 30s and 40s, it should be no different. What are you learning? What are you sifting through that I like that, I don't like that, I want this, I don't want this? Refine what you want and use every dating opportunity as a way to become clearer about what you want. And sure, if you want to look at it as, well, that was a failed date, fine. But it's a failed date. It's not a setback. It doesn't define who you are. It's just a numbers game at the end of the day. And with that, there is going to be certain situations where you don't go on a second date or you went on a couple of dates and it ultimately ended. Reframe those failed dates as redirections, not as setbacks. The more you set realistic expectations, the less you're going to let certain dating experiences get you down. Not every date is going to end in happily ever after, and that's okay. Rejection is normal and not at all an indication of your self-worth. You might be doing a lot of the rejecting too. Just remember that chemistry is not everything that we see in the movies, where it's an instant spark that stays ablaze for years and years, if not through the rest of your lives. Chemistry sometimes needs time to build. So if you are going on a date with someone who has a lot of that great potential that you're seeing in your standards, but you're not quite sure because you didn't feel that instant chemistry, give it another date or two, because that chemistry can build and you're gonna learn more about them and see if they truly do fit in your ideal partner, if they do fit as an ideal partner. If you have reframed how you're going to approach dating, if you have set more realistic expectations, if you feel more fortified to go up against a date that may not go anywhere, but you're open to learning and growing from the experience, it's not to say that you may come up against times where you just need a break from dating altogether. That's a reality too. I remember when I was dating in my 30s and there were two distinct times that I needed to take a break. The first was after I followed up with someone I went on a date with, saying that I didn't want to go on a second date with them after all. I thought about it and I'm not sure why I said yes. I maybe felt a little pressured to, but something just didn't feel right and I was not interested in this person and what I saw in them in that first date. So I reached out to him saying, hey, I actually, on second thought, I don't really see this going anywhere romantically. And he did not take that rejection very well. He said a lot of mean things to me, and one of the main things that he said that really hurt my feelings was, you don't know what you're looking for. And that really cut me deep because I was clear, or at least a lot clearer than I was years before on what I was looking for. I just wasn't looking for him. I spent all this time, all this heartbreak to learn what my ideal partner should look like and how they should make me feel. And for some stranger to tell me I didn't know what I was looking like, it really got in my head. And so it was important for me to take a few weeks off from dating because I didn't want to take that energy into the next date and let that get in the way of me showing up as my best self or not giving someone the opportunity that they deserved. The second time I took a break is after a short relationship ended. And that makes complete sense, right? You want to make sure that you work through any baggage before you go into another relationship. But what was especially difficult for me was the idea of going back on the dating apps. So coming out of a relationship and then going back on the apps, you're thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to see? Is it going to be the same guys? I just can't believe I have to go through this process again. So even if you've gotten over the relationship, the idea of getting back in the dating game can feel like a lot. And so that time I took a couple of months off before I put myself back on the apps. I have to tell you though, in those few months, I learned so much about myself. It is, in hindsight, one of the best times of my life. I felt so connected and committed to myself. Something that I was missing from all these relationships was a deep commitment and connection. And so I offered that to myself. And I began to trust myself in ways that I never had before. I learned and I grew and I stepped outside of my comfort zone. I picked up new hobbies. I did a lot of self-reflection and therefore a lot of self-healing. And I finally felt like, wow, I know not only what I'm looking for in a partner, but how I can be my best self and my most vulnerable self when going into the next relationship. And I was all the better off for it. So much so, in fact, that when I got back into dating, within the month, I met my now husband. If dating ever starts to feel too much for you, take the time to step back and refocus. In that time, prioritize self-care and do all the things that you love. And then come back when you're in the right headspace, because you never want to force it when it comes to something as beautiful as trying to find your life partner. On the note of doing things that you love, you want to make sure that you are living a life individually that is fulfilling. When it comes to finding a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband or a wife, they should be complementing your life, not completing it. So be sure that you're prioritizing all the other things that you enjoy and love. Your friendships, your relationships with family members, your passions and hobbies. Relationships are meant to be a bonus in our life, not the source of happiness. If I were to think of the metaphor of having a glass and people think, is the glass half full? Is the glass half empty? When it comes to our own glasses, fill the entire glass up. Fill it up with all the things that make you you, that you enjoy, that fulfill your life, that you love through and through. And the right person, when they come along, the expectation isn't that they help fill up your cup. You've already have it full. Because when you're in a relationship, you love each other, you want to pour into each other's cups, but really it should be an overflow of joy and intimacy and living and experiencing life together. Just as you wouldn't want to pour out of your cup to fill someone else and deplete yourself to make them feel whole, the expectation should never be that someone is going to come in and save the day and fill the cup for you so that you can finally start to live. Your life is happening now. So what are you doing to make it as fulfilling as possible? Whether you're actively dating or taking a break, make sure you are surrounding yourself with people who are positive. Friends who are either experiencing it with you, the ones that are positive about the experience, friends that have been in the dating game, even if they're now loved up, but that they understand what the process was like because they also have experience and can relate to what you're going through. Essentially, you want the ones that have the can-do attitude and you want to quiet out any negativity and noise and pressure. That's not going to help you. You also want to be sure that the surroundings that you put yourself in, whether it's online or offline, the messaging that you're receiving is exuding self-confidence, building up your self-worth, and all around positivity as you're going through the dating process. When I say being friendlier to the process, I just mean keeping it as fun and light as possible. Try new dating experiences, even be open to meeting people who are outside of your usual type, and go into each of these dates with curiosity over pressure. Oftentimes, women tend to think that the date is the other person or the man's time, and you are approaching the date in a way to make yourself feel worth their time. I want to show up and be the best date for them. Well, that's good, but it's your time too. So how about approaching these dates with an energy of, you're taking time out of your life, I'm taking time out of my life. You're looking for a significant other, I'm looking for a significant other. Your time is just as valuable as mine. So when you take that pressure off of yourself and maybe in a way share in the pressure together, or just say that, hey, this is the process and we're both in it. No one's time is more important than the other. You'll see how quickly the vibes can turn where the man is actually trying to make himself come off worth your while. And if the date goes badly or it goes nowhere, try and laugh it off, but at least brush yourself off, get up, and move on to the next. What if there was a date that you were really feeling, or you went on a couple of dates with someone and it fizzled out, or they didn't ask you on another date? Rejection is hard, no matter what age, and there is going to be rejection when dating in your 30s and 40s. You first want to understand that it's not personal. Chemistry is a two-way street. You also don't always find chemistry with everyone that you're dating, and therefore you don't accept a second offer, or you don't give off the impression that you're interested in a second date. And if you ask yourself if there was anything personal about them, no, not necessarily. You don't know them, but you just know they weren't your type or they weren't your vibe. So everyone is having to go through that, no matter which direction, which means you may be on the receiving end of being rejected. But if you start reframing rejection as redirection, you will have a more positive outlook, because you deserve to be with someone who chooses you just as much as you choose them. And if someone didn't want to go on another date with you, that's not your person. So take it as a lesson and don't let it define you or your self-worth. But keep your standards intact, because it's all about finding the person who aligns with your standards just as you align with theirs. I guess if I were to summarize this reframing and reset and how you approach dating in your 30s and 40s, it really comes down to having that resiliency to keep going, to keep showing up as your best self, because you are determined and committed to finding the right life partner for you. So as you're resilient, keep that next mindset when dating. If something doesn't go well, on to the next. I met a lovely 80-year-old woman when I was taking improv classes a few years ago, and she said something to me that was profound. She said, men are like taxi cabs. There's another one right around the corner. And it's true. Remind yourself that dating is a numbers game. You are looking for quality, but it's going to take a lot of quantity before you get there. And so with that, rejection is going to be a part of it. Stay focused on what you bring to the table rather than who chooses or doesn't choose you. And remember, when you do need breaks, take that step back so you can refocus. One of the most frustrating things that happens in dating and rejection is when people completely ghost you. I think that is so disrespectful and completely unnecessary, especially at this age, but it still happens. Why does it happen? Again, it's not personal. This just shows the person's lack of emotional maturity, and they clearly do not have the communication skills to be able to come up with the words to let you know that they're not interested in moving forward. Now, you also don't want to be the one that's ghosting others. So if you're not interested, all it takes is a simple few words and saying, hey, I had a really nice time, but I don't see this romantically. I wish you the best. When you're on the receiving end of ghosting though, how are ways to handle it? If it's been a while since you've heard from them, let it go. Their silence is their answer. If someone who ghosted you kind of reappears but gives minimal effort, do not take the bite. Don't respond. You don't want crumbs. You deserve the whole dang pie. So if someone is dropping these pesky little crumbs, hey, how's it going? Just to test the waters after they've ghosted you, no, thank you. That is up to you to be very clear on your self-worth and your boundaries, and not responding to them shows that you are a woman of value and you're not going to take that. It doesn't mean that the initial ghosting didn't burn, but accept that closure isn't always going to come from another person. Closure is something you can give yourself by just looking at it as pragmatically as possible, that this and that behavior was all on them and has nothing to do with you. Remember when I shared I took those couple of months off from dating before I went on to finally meet my now husband? I shared that it was one of the best times of my life. It's because I learned and grew a lot in that time period as a single person. And a lot of it had to do with self-reflection. Oftentimes when we think back to past relationships and the ones that didn't work, we tend to, maybe as a way to help us move on, focus on how the other person wasn't right for us or the ways that they were wrong in the relationship. But relationships are a two-part equation. And while you are now dating in your 30s and 40s, you want to be the best other part of that equation you can be. The person that you love and want to spend the rest of your life with deserves the best version of you. So when you are single or even during this process, use this time to also work on yourself for growth and to tap on and tune into the most authentic and best parts of yourself. It's especially important that you do that because if you are providing to yourself all the things that significant others have lacked in the past, when you start giving it to yourself now, anyone who comes into your life from here on out, if they lack that, why would you want them in your life? If they're not going to complement or add to all the ways that you already have provided yourself with a beautiful life and commitment and love and trust, if they're lacking in any of the ways that you are already providing to yourself, you don't need them. And that helps you stick to your standards a lot more easily. You are seeking a partner and not just the idea of one. And so you want to check in with yourself. Are you seeking the idea of a relationship, or are you actually ready for one? This is why self-reflection is important and how you are showing up as a partner on that second part of the relationship equation. In that self-reflection phase, also make sure you've worked through all of your baggage, all of your past heartbreaks, and you're developing communication skills that are healthy and effective so that when things are bothering you or when you need to advocate for yourself or when you just want to openly share the intentions that you have with dating and what you're looking for, you're able to verbalize them as best as possible. So how do you do that? First, reflect back on your relationships and the patterns, not just the patterns of the other person, right? You dated a bunch of different individuals. The same common denominator in those relationships, though, was you. See if you can identify reoccurring themes, what worked and what didn't work. For me, when I think back to my past relationships, especially in my 20s, I was oftentimes the one approached by someone who was already interested in me, and I didn't necessarily find an interest in them right off the bat until it eventually grew. But in the time that I didn't have that reciprocal interest, they were just seeing me be my bubbly, authentic self. It's amazing though that once I caught feelings, how small I played because I never wanted to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, and I essentially became a doormat. And that ownership I have to take. That wasn't on them, regardless of the bad or awful things that they may or may not have done in the relationship. You also want to check in as we're talking about red flags. Have there been red flags that you've ignored in the past? And why did you allow that to happen? I certainly did. And by the time I approached my 30s and into my 30s, every person that I dated got significantly better because I was able to identify a red flag and not entertain the thought of a relationship with that person when I was seeing those signs. You also want to check and see, did you contribute to any of the challenges in those relationships? I shared that not only was I playing small in a lot of my relationships in my 20s, I wasn't vulnerable enough in not just sharing more deeply about my feelings and emotions. When I wasn't with a partner who valued me, I wasn't putting up my boundaries. And if I was putting up my boundaries, I wasn't holding to them. So I essentially let them walk all over me, and I have to take accountability for that. I can't put that on them. And what that can also boil down to is clearly my communication skills needed a lot of work. Why wasn't I able to openly communicate my boundaries? Why wasn't I openly able to communicate, hey, I didn't like the way you made me feel when you did XYZ? And so I really worked on that in my 30s and in that time of self-reflection. Essentially what you're looking for are what are lessons that you can take forward? What are lessons that you can apply when it comes to your own personal growth? One final thing to consider that I really considered in that moment that I had a pause in dating is what has lacked in your past relationships that you were also not providing yourself. For me, it was the lack of commitment and consistency. It was the lack of trust that I had in the other person. And so I spent time completely committed to myself. What do I love? If I committed to it, will I see it through? I made sure my word, my own word to myself was my bond. And I showed up for myself day in and day out. And I learned to trust myself. Trust my gut when I was seeing red flags. Trust my gut when I felt like someone crossed a boundary and it was time for me to communicate with them that I didn't like it at all. That is what you want to focus on when you are reflecting and thinking of ways that you can grow and be better for the future. So I just said the term, you don't need them. You want to be clear on what are your wants, nice to haves, and what are your needs, non-negotiables. Have a very distinct list of non-negotiables, because if they're not meeting your needs, that is not where you want to invest any of your time and your emotions. When it comes to the standards of that needs list, stick by it. When it comes to the standards of your wants list, you want to make sure that what you're asking for is realistic. Now, I'm not going to say you can't get 100% of what you're looking for, but let's say you want someone who is a value man, who is respectful, loving, kind, and he dresses like a GQ model. Do you need them to dress that well right now? Is there room to grow? This is just an example, but I do know oftentimes when people get in relationships, their significant other can positively impact superficial things that are not asking someone to essentially change who they are at the core. Or if you love reading and you read 12 books a year and you meet someone who maybe only reads 3 books a year and it's really important to you that they read, I wouldn't say that's necessarily someone you want to pass on. The fact that they're reading at all is great. Maybe you can create a little couples book club together so that they can increase their book reading. What I'm saying is you want to make sure that your standards list doesn't leave any room for growth for your partner, because you're going to grow. You have things to still learn. You're not going to be perfect in all the ways that someone would expect you to be from date one. You want to make sure that you are reciprocating that space and grace to your partners. Now, I shared a lot. What are practical ways that you can apply this self-reflection? Well, therapy is a great way to unpack a lot of what's going on in your heart and mind. If you're not in therapy or you're not interested in therapy, there's a lot of practice that you could do yourself, like self-reflection journals, self-reflection exercises. Think through all the ways that you've been unsupportive to yourself when it comes to what you are exploring, and revise and find ways that you can shift it in a way that you can be more supportive. The more you live a fulfilling life outside of dating, the more you will become self-confident and build up your self-worth. So be sure to not let dating or being single be your identity. You are a whole person with or without a significant other. And be sure to check in on your emotional intelligence. So ways that you communicate, the way you respond to a significant other versus react. These are all ways that you can continue to develop and become the best version of yourself. Dating in your 30s and 40s is going to be different than your 20s because there's so much wisdom that you're now bringing to the process. No matter what age though, relationships are going to require openness to learning and openness to adapting, whether you're in between dates or you are starting off in the early stages of a relationship. So stay open to feedback, remain pragmatic when you need to look at things very black and white, and overall just have as much fun as you can in the experience. The right relationship is going to challenge you to grow in the best ways, and you want to be ready for it. Dating in your 30s and 40s can be empowering if approached with the right mindset. Focus on enjoying this process rather than rushing to the finish line. And continue becoming the absolute best version of yourself, because the right person is meant to complement you, not complete you. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, be sure to hit the like button. And if you have not subscribed already, hit the subscribe button because there are more episodes coming in a Millennials Guide to Turning 40 and you don't want to miss it. I also want to hear from you. What has been a big learning curve for you as you've been dating in your 30s and 40s? Is there any advice you can offer to others who are dating in this stage of their life? If there's anything that I shared in this video that you want me to go deeper in, please leave that comment below. I really appreciate getting feedback from you and learning about the things that you want to hear about. And of course, if there's anything when it comes to dating or relationships that I didn't touch on in this video that you want me to create a video for, leave a comment on that as well. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.